Reflections and analysis of the moral imperatives on the issue of the debate on whether or not a parent and/or guardian has a moral obligation and therefore should have a legal obligation to ensure the well-being and safety of society through the method of vaccinating their children with respect to these moral guidelines found in resources including but not limited to the teachings of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church as found in the Bible and the Catechism of the Catholic Church, a Bioethics Project presented by Andrew Schreider McMahon, David Christopher Hiller, Samuel Thomas Carrera, and Andrew Ross Detremont.
Good evening, and welcome to ZNN. My name is Ross, and I'm joined here by Sam. Tonight's discussion centers around vaccinations and their pertinence to human dignity and morality. First, however, a brief history of vaccinations. Buddhist monks in the earliest centuries were known to drink snake venom as a way to become immortal. Although their science was flawed, their vision would continue throughout the ages. In 1796, Edward Jenner inoculated a patient with cowpox as a way of testing Jenner's hypothesis that introducing a patient's body with a small amount of a disease will prevent future major epidemics. Jenner's patient became ill with a small localized infection, but he did make a full recovery. Thus, the beginning of America's long journey in creating vaccinations. And now, Sam will discuss the practicalities of vaccinations.
Thank you, Ross. Well, vaccines have many practical uses. They have eradicated diseases such as smallpox and have greatly reduced the number of those being infected by and dying from lethal diseases such as polio, measles, whooping cough, and many more. For example, according to the Center for Disease Control, before vaccines, the number of people infected with diphtheria was 175,885. That number was 1 in 2012. However, recently there has been a movement against vaccines. This was started by a now retracted study done by Dr. Andrew Wakefield that was called An Elaborate Fraud and was brought to popularity by actress Jenny McCarthy. And now we'll jump to David and Andrew in these seats 5 minutes from now.
Sam and Ross for the pertinent information and the excellent view. A recent outbreak of smallpox at Disneyland, wherein some 20-plus individuals contracted the preventable disease, has propelled this vaccine debate into the limelight. The main contention of that debate being, should the government punish individuals who choose not to vaccinate? Or, in terms world-renowned bioethics enthusiast and Pope Karl Wojtyła might put it, does the necessity of protecting one individual's human dignity trump the necessity of protecting another individual's autonomy? Here to help us understand is Andrew.
Thank you, David. Lovely hair. Now, I will speak about the concept of individual autonomy and why some people decide not to take vaccines. Individual autonomy is an idea that is generally understood to refer to the capacity to be one's own person, to live one's own life according to reasons and motives that are taken as one's own and not the product of manipulative or distorting external forces. According to this principle, one can make the statement that they do not want to get vaccinated based on the fact that when one is vaccinated through inoculation, they do take on a slight risk of catching the virus. And now Sam and Ross will refute this.
Thank you, Andrew and David. You guys look so peaceful when you sleep. When they receive their licenses, doctors take an oath. In this oath, they adhere to, among others, the following principles: autonomy and do no harm. Autonomy is a person's right to decide what they want to have done medically. The principle of do no harm means that the doctor will under no circumstance do any harm to a person. This principle can be applied to the relationship between a government and its people. A government has the obligation to ensure its citizens are safe, even if some others believe that the principle of autonomy gives them the right to indirectly hurt society. A wise nun once told me that the principle of do no harm trumps that of autonomy. Now my colleague Ross will now explain just how harmful a lack of vaccines can be to humans.
Thank you, Sam. I get lost in your eyes, literally. And now some statistics on what vaccinations have done throughout the world. In the past 60 years, vaccines helped eradicate one disease, smallpox, and are close to eradicating another, polio. Vaccines prevent more than 2.5 million deaths each year. Scientific studies and reviews continue to show no relationship between vaccines and autism. New and underutilized vaccines could avert nearly 4 million deaths by this year. Now, vaccines cause herd immunity, which means if the majority of people in a community have been vaccinated against a disease, An unvaccinated person is less likely to get sick because others are less likely to get sick and spread the disease. And now my colleague Sam has more on the issues of herd immunity and bioethics.
Thank you, Ross. That information is almost as captivating as you poolside. Some argue that it should be his or her own choice to vaccinate because they cannot negatively affect people who get vaccinated. This is not true. Herd immunity is necessary because viruses can adapt and evolve rapidly inside a person, therefore making the virus's vaccine useless. 90% of people need to be vaccinated in order for herd immunity to be considered effective. Now we will go to Andrew and David in the studio.
Thank you, Sam and Ross. You both make Helen of Troy look like a disgusting floozy. Now, many of you at home might be asking, David, what about moral objections to vaccines? For instance, what about vaccines made out of aborted fetuses? Well, first of all, viewers, don't interrupt me while I'm filming. It's rude. Secondly, this is a common misconception about vaccines, stemming from a misunderstanding about cell lines. To put it simply, cell lines are a group of cells who continually replicate within a cell culture. One application of these cells, and their descendant cells, is to be used for research and development of vaccines. Although most cell lines are derived from animal cells, there are currently 2 cell lines which were derived from the cells of fetuses aborted in 1964 and 1970. From these cell lines, scientists have discovered vaccines to diseases such as rubella, hepatitis A, and rabies. In response to these vaccines, the Vatican released a study entitled Moral Reflections on Vaccines Prepared from Cells Derived from Aborted Human Fetuses. In this study, the Church concluded that Catholics were encouraged to receive an alternative vaccine when one was available. However, the moral imperative of protecting one's children and those around them from dangerous diseases outweighed the very remote material cooperation with the original immoral act. The Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith supported this statement through their own Donum Vitae and Dignitas Personae. Here to tell you about some other moral objections is Andrew.
Thank you, David. Sometimes I lay awake at night wishing I could have chest hair like yours. Another moral controversy with vaccines is the discussion regarding the possibility that vaccines could cause autism. Clearly, if this was true, this information would cause a huge moral dilemma as to if the safety of oneself is worth the risk of their children's mental stability. As mentioned earlier by one of my colleagues, this belief was sparked by a later invalidated report done by Dr. Andrew Wakefield in 1998. Vaccination rates in the UK plummeted after this publication, and the study helped launch the anti-vaccine movement in the US. In the National Consumers League survey conducted in the US last year, 1/3 of parents with children under the age of 18 and 29% of overall adults believe that vaccinations can cause autism. This report is a fraudulent study that has been refuted many times and was retracted by the journal that published it. This study is believed to be the cause for the recent drops in vaccinations that led to the measles outbreak started in Disneyland December 2014 and has since spread to 17 other states and has infected more than 100 people. When asked about this situation, Wakefield responded, "The responsibility lies squarely on the shoulders of those who have been involved in vaccine policy making, which is totally inadequate and bordering on the dangerous." He says the government has only themselves to blame for this problem. This statement would show that even the man who originally claimed vaccines may cause autism would be in favor of the government regulating vaccines for all citizens. Back to you, Sam and Ross.
Thank you, Andrew and David, for always being here. Now, we would go to our field reporter, Ross, but he isn't here today. Thanks, Ross. So now we're going to go to David, who's subbing for him. Again.
Have you ever had a vaccine? No. No? Do you know anything about vaccines? I heard. Do you think they're dangerous to your health? No? Anything else?
Have you ever been vaccinated?
For what?
For anything? Ever gotten a vaccine?
I guess so.
Oh.
I've gotten shots.
What do you know about vaccines?
They prevent illnesses.
Do you think they're dangerous to your health?
I bet some are.
Alright. Do you believe that it is morally right for the government to punish people who choose not to vaccinate?
No.
No? Why?
Because I feel like people should have the right to make the decision what they want for themselves. Yeah.
Okay, do you think the government should require people to take vaccines?
No, I don't, because if people don't want to take the vaccines and they decide like their life has come to an end and they want to die, then that's fine. Like, it's their decision, it's their body. They can do what they want with it.
Alright, I think the government should mandate vaccines for certain programs. Like if you go to a public school, they should mandate it so everyone is safe.
Do you think that the government should mandate that people receive vaccines?
I don't think so. Because I think it's a personal choice. You should get a shot or not. But in China, we've done, like, every kid in school have to get a regular shot, which we don't have a choice, and it's have to be done. And personally, I don't agree with it. You put a virus in your body, I don't think it's safe. And
What do you know about vaccines?
I know there's been a lot of controversy about them, and that the government actually pays billions or millions of dollars, I don't know the exact figure of money, but for vaccines, like side effects that weren't intended.
Okay. Well, do you think that the government should then mandate the use of vaccines to its citizens?
Personally, I think the number of vaccines have gone up way too much over the years, and that we don't need as much as we have right now currently. I think there's some that we do need, but there's an use of vaccines that are causing unknown and unwanted side effects.
What is your opinion about whether or not the government should regulate vaccines for all citizens?
Okay. Well, I think it poses a safety risk if they don't get vaccine, but it also goes against some people's individual rights to make them get vaccines.
It's a very moderate opinion.
I think they should because it's a public safety risk.
How is it a public safety risk?
Because other people can get infected if you don't get a vaccine.
Okay.
Now, can you tell us anything about the recent measles outbreak at Disneyland?
Everyone should be vaccinated. I don't know anything about it.
And we just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our very special and important interviewees, including Chris Dentremont, Katie Moore, Kyle, Allie Hall, Andrew Brewster, Vicky Lau, Adam Franco, Ada Griffin, Lucy Hart, and Kendall Becker.
Special thanks to Chris Detremont for being the only Detremont to show up every time we asked him.
A great guy.
So, as you can see from this video, the issue of vaccines raises a lot of important bioethical questions, especially in relation to the principles of autonomy versus do no harm, the role that abortion has played in the development of vaccines, and how that relates to material and formal cooperation, and what the government's role in all of this is, whether it's to protect the common good or individual liberties. These are all very important bioethical questions that should and will be talked about at length for many years to come. And that's a good thing, because, Judgment Day, it is what it is.
According to this principle, one could make the statement that they do not want to... What are you doing? What are you doing? I didn't see you.
I'm sorry. I'm just blatantly insulting my co-anchor.